G'day and welcome to another big edition of the RDFNL Footy Show. Thanks to our friends at Ontime Delivery Solutions. My name's Genji. I'm joined by Tara Murray from the Star Weekly. We've got a massive round 9 coming up in RDFNL Senior Footy.
We do. There's quite a few matches that will have a big impact on the ladder with depending on how results fall. So I think we've got 4 of the top 6 playing each other, and then we've got a couple of teams that are just outside the top 6 facing each other as well. So it's a very important round in the context of the season.
Absolutely right there. And I'm going to break through the other fourth wall here for those... Thanks to our mate Pete over at Sunbury 3 NRG FM, Balls and All Sports on Saturday mornings. This show gets replayed on the day, so a big g'day to all those listening in on the Saturday, which I think it's fantastic. It's great to have other media organisations share it, much like our friends at Rupert's Wood as well, who share our show. And Rupo TV is getting record hits, almost getting more than us at the moment. So I think we better lift our game a little bit. I
know they're lucky they can get the content of the matches. Maybe a few players who are watching back their goals from the weekends as well. So
yeah, absolutely fantastic. So we thought we'll give those guys a bit of a plug there before we rip into the first lot of games. And we've got Diggers Rest and Lancefield.
Look, I think we were expecting a one-sided match here. Diggers Rest has absolutely smashed these bottom sides. So for them, it's just about keep doing what they've been doing. They've come in off their best performance of the season when they've knocked off Wallen. So it's about having that four-quarter performance. And because they're getting a number of guys back into the side, it's about getting that match fitness into them and getting the continuity in the side. So they're starting to build, and they're looking at like they'll hit their best form coming later in the season.
And for Lancefield, what can we take out of them?
Well, they've just got to keep. Obviously, we know that they are struggling this season. They aren't paying players. They're looking to the future with a lot of local guys. So it's just about making sure they're doing all the team things. They've got their KPIs they've set on the board. It's not about the scoreboard for them. It's about hitting the things they've set pre-game that they want to achieve. Looking
forward to seeing who stands up for them this week, and it's a few players that we can look forward to watching in the back end of the season, because they've got a bit of talent there, but I guess the beauty is they're having different guys step up every week.
It is, and it's a lot of their experienced guys as well. I think it was Luke Malone, Matt Bowden, Chris Collins, those guys were the ones that were sort of strong last round, so that they're the ones you'd expect to stand up, and they have been showing the way.
One of the matches around, we've got the Sunbury Kangaroos taking on Romsey.
This is very interesting. You've obviously got, I think, Romsey's sitting 7th and Sunbury Kangaroos are 8th, I think it is at the moment, but Romsey's played one less game, so that's very important in the context of the season and looking for a top 6 spot. So both of these sides will be wanting to win to keep pressure on those top 6 sides, especially with some of those sides playing each other this week. You look, Romsey's coming off a really big win against Rockbank, where at the same time Sunbury Kangaroos are coming off their best performance of the season, knocking off Wood End Heskett. So it's going to be quite an interesting match, and for both sides it's very important in the run home.
How does this one play out?
Look, I'm going to go Romsey. I think Romsey has a little bit more depth, but if the Sunbury Kangaroos play the way they did last week, I can't see why they can't do that. Obviously they are blooding a lot of players that have been playing reserves previously are playing seniors, so sometimes it's a mental thing. If you get out, then it doesn't matter who's on the park, as long as you're focused in that you can get the point sometimes.
I heard a stat sort of bandied around that from round 1 to round 8 there's probably well and truly over a dozen players from the Sunbury Kangaroos lineup that have come in and out of the side. It's been a big turnover.
It is definitely, and you look at it, obviously one example of that is Jamie Cuff, who had retired at the end of last season and then decided he was going to play reserves to just have a run around, and he's ended up playing seniors. I know he missed a game injured a couple of weeks ago, but came straight back in, so that's sort of saying they are bringing those guys through. So, and you look why some of these guys have played a lot of reserves in recent years. They have won 3 out of the 4 last reserves flags premiership, so they have got a bit of experience in that side and a winning feeling as well. So if they can do what they did last round, then they could quite easily get the win.
Hopefully some of that success from the reserves sort of pushes up, and I will be getting on the Sunbury Kangaroos bandwagon this week. I think they've got a lot of potential to go back-to-back. A game that I cannot wait to go down and check out. We've got Wallen and Wood End Heskett.
This is very interesting. You've got 2 sides coming off losses, 2 sides that were probably disappointed with their losses as well. So, and probably the way they played. Obviously, you can take a loss if you played well and think, yep, we could have done this quite easily. But both were probably disappointed. Wallen was flattered on the scoreboard, while Wood End Heskett, they had their chances against Sunbury. They got back to within 4 points, but in the end couldn't get over the line. And Sunbury actually, I think, was the better team across the 4 quarters. So both sides will be looking to get that win and also for ladder position. You've got Wallen, who is sitting second, but you've got Macedon right on the tails. Diggers Rest is right on the tails. So they drop a game, that could see them drop out of the top 2 quite quickly. Where Wood End Heskett's now slipped, I think they're down to 5th or 6th. they drop another match, and then you've got Romsey and Sunbury Kangaroos right on their tail, and they're back in the pack.
Yeah, it does make things interesting in that respect, because particularly a loss to Woodend, a loss for Woodend, Heskett would be hard, because we do have Romsey and Sunbury Kangaroos playing, and they're the ones sort of jostling for that position.
Exactly, and Romsey's played one less game as well. Obviously, they still do have to play Diggers Rest in that match, which will be a tough one, and no means it is a certain win. But just say they win this week and they pick that one up, they're right back in there, and it could knock Woodend out of that top 6. So it's a vital match for both teams.
Hawks a chance in this one?
They are, but I think Wallen will bounce back, especially up at Wallen as well. So it's always pretty tough up there. But then we know Woodend, they were pretty good against Rupert's Wood without getting the win, and they knocked off Diggers Rest, so they have played well against those good sides. So I'm not discounting them, but I will go tipping Wallen. Yeah,
I'll tip Wallen on that one as well. I can't remember the last time the Hawks actually won a Green Hill Reserve either, so I think it's been a bit of a long stretch between drinks. Mountain Centrals and Broadford, like a big chance here for the Centrals.
It is, and this is for them to keep in touch with that top 6 as well. I think they're only percentage behind Sunbury Kangaroos, so there's not much difference there. And with the two sides above them playing each other, it keeps them in the mix. You'd expect them to have a big win. They had a big win against Lancefield. They had a big win against Rockbank, so they have absolutely smashed those bottom sides. So I'm expecting that again this week.
And Dylan Weir, if he's fit and firing, could he get back to some mean form? Because he didn't kick a goal last weekend.
Well, he doesn't necessarily have to be fit. He wasn't well when he kicked 19 a few weeks ago. So just depends. If they can get it down to him, that's the key. You have got a key target down there who can kick bags of goals. He's shown, it's not while he kicked 19 a couple of weeks ago, he's kicked a couple of bags of 5, that he is a key target down there in any condition. So you get it to him, and that's it, Central's best shot of getting the win.
Yeah, I think important for Centrals as well is that, not discrediting Broadford, but if Centrals can find other avenues to goals as well, this might be the game to sort of do that, particularly if they want to play finals.
Look, you do that, and look, speaking with Massett and Coach Ben Tankett last week, he said their pressure from Massett and from Melton was intense, so they're putting the pressure on the players. They've stepped out up that next level. It's about getting the wins against some of those top sides now and closing that gap. So, but in that process, it's also beating these bottom sides, which they've done so far.
Hopefully, a big win for Broadford this weekend would ensure that they've got all sides on the paddock. I think that'd be fantastic, and anything else is a bonus for them. And I know they're under 19.5s. They are flying. They will play finals. A lot of exciting talent in there. I'd be interested to see, as the season progresses, how many of those under 19.5 players who actually push into the seniors and have a bit of a run around for experience.
Look, you'll give a few of them, but at the same time, you want to juggle. You don't want to curtail these players and obviously come into seniors to get smashed every week. It dents the morale, and that's something that Broadford is juggling. And I know when I spoke to Skip Ray after Interleague, he said that that's the biggest thing. It's about juggling that morale. They want to give these younger guys the experience, but at the same time, they don't want them being smashed every single week that they don't want to be around the club.
Riddle v Broadford. Riddle v Rupo.
This one has been one of the most interesting matches across the last 3-4 years.
Yep.
Not just this round, it is, and these two have sort of built up a good rivalry, and both enter the match on really, really good form. They're both coming off some big matches, and Riddle has been dominant in their last few performances. I think they've had close to 300-point wins in the last weeks. I'm not sure how many they won by Romsey, but they could have quite easily won by the 100 points. I think Romsey kicked a couple late though. But you look at that, and then you've got Rupert's Wood, who, besides their loss to Wallen, which they only just lost, and they were still missing several players, you go, it's going to be a quite interesting match. And you probably see where Riddle is now at. They struggled early on, but now playing one of these top sides, you see where they sort of compare and where they sort of rank at this time of the season.
We know how Rupert's would have been, how well they've been going already this year. Riddle have sort of, again, slow start, getting some great form now. Are the Bombers a chance?
Look, they're always a chance in these matches. I think Rupert's will be too strong and get the win. But you go, the way Riddle's played the last couple of weeks, you can't discard them. They destroyed Romsey, and we thought that was going to be match of the round. I know we were both at that match and were shocked at the scoreline in the end. So you've got that. You can't discard them the way they're playing. You've obviously got Hayden Ross is in really good form. Dylan Tarkson starting to warm up, and they've got a lot of players and a lot of different options. But I think Rupert's Woods just has too much depth across the ground.
Looking forward to seeing how Nick Grigg goes against some really good backmen, and be interested to see who. I'd imagine he'll be lining up on Timmy Walsh, who's an outstanding backman in his own right, and how the Bombers use Ben Sonigan as well.
And it is, and you look, obviously you go, Nick Grigg will go down there to full forward, but you've got who goes in Nick Grigg, who goes on top, Podolak.
Yeah.
At the same time, Grigg sort of frees up Podolak a bit. So they're going to have to find not one but two key defenders, whether Ben Sonigan is that other one to try and shut down Todd. As we know, he's been really, really good this season. I think there's only one poor game that he's had for the year, and that was the Wallen game. So you have to look to shut down him too. So whether you've got Sonigan goes to him or Sonigan might go to Grigg, and then you've got Timmy Walsh go to Todd Podolak, you've got two key decisions to make down there.
And whether Braden Allen makes himself available or Jason Allen makes himself available for a game like this. I don't know what their movements are personally, but if you had them in the team, then they could probably push back into that role and maybe free Sonigan to run further up the field.
Well, that's it. They've got a lot of decisions to make. They have spotted a lot of players through the side again, so they have seen what different players can do, and they might even throw a surprise and throw different players onto those two guys.
Maybe the great man Dylan Tarkson. Throw him down back because he can do the job.
I think they'll use him up forward and up midfield. He's a little bit more destructive down there, so I think you don't want to take that away from their game. It really helps them and getting forward.
Yeah, he should be getting fined for all these mentions too every time he gets pumped up. So for those watching the social media, get onto him. Money, money, money. As we talk on to the final game, we've got Rockbank and Macedon.
Well, this is going to be an interesting one. Obviously, Macedon are clear favourites going into this game, but I think they had a few sore boys after the game with Melbourne Central, so whether they look to rest a couple of guys, give them a bit of a break, is something that might come into contention here and get some of those younger guys more opportunity. Obviously, I mentioned earlier in the week, Patrick Doyle, Sax Medley, they were best on ground, and they're two of the against Melbourne Centrals, and they're two of the younger guys, so they're likely to get more opportunities in the midfield. I know they are expecting to get a few players back in the next few weeks, like Matthew Dick, Casey Somerville, Jack Mills, Jack Kernan, so they've still got a few guys to come back in. Whether they bring them back this week or they hold off another week and give them a break, that's still to be decided. For Rockbank, it's about just making sure they're competitive and hitting their KPIs. They'll continue to throw players around, try them in new positions, and see whether they can find a player or two heading into next season. They go, yep, there's a new role for them. They'll work really well in that next season.
I wouldn't be surprised, at least in the reserves, that the Rams can walk away with a victory there because they've still got a few good players floating around, and with Macedon's depth has been tested at times.
It is, and if they rest players, then that is something their depth will be tested there. Whether you bring up a few 19s into the reserves, not sure there. But yeah, the Rams definitely have still got some players in the reserves. Their problem has been players in and out of the seniors, which then does hurt the reserves. So I think some weeks they've had 7 or 8 players in and out of the side, and that doesn't help either side. So if they can get those players back on the park in the senior side, and then that flows on to the reserves, and the reserves will be a good shot there.
Absolutely right. Well, thanks to our friends at Ontime Delivery Solutions. Thanks to you, Tara, for joining us, and make sure you check out Rupo TV. It is one of the hottest shows on the market from Clubland. And guys, we look forward to catching up with you next week.
Thanks for having me.